Ezra, chapters 6 through 8. King Darius gave the orders, and they searched in the library of Babylon in the archives, but it was in the fortress of Ecbatana in the province of Media that a scroll was found with this record written on it. In the first year of King Cyrus, he issued a decree concerning the house of God in Jerusalem. Let the house be rebuilt as a place for offering sacrifices, and let its original foundations be retained. Its height is to be 90 feet, and its width 90 feet, with 3 layers of cut stones and one of timber. The cost is to be paid from the royal treasury. The gold and silver articles of God's house that Nebuchadnezzar took from the temple in Jerusalem and carried to Babylon must also be returned. They are to be brought to the temple in Jerusalem where they belong and put into the house of God. Therefore, you must stay away from that place. Tattenai, governor of the region west of the Euphrates River, Shethar-Bozenai, and your colleagues, the officials in the region, leave the construction of the house of God alone. Let the governor and elders of the Jews rebuild this house of God on its original site. I hereby issue a decree concerning what you are to do, so that the elders of the Jews can rebuild the house of God. The cost is to be paid in full to these men out of the royal revenues from the taxes of the region west of the Euphrates River, so that the work will not stop. Whatever is needed, young bulls, rams, and lambs for burnt offerings to the God of the heavens, or wheat, salt, wine, or oil, as requested by the priests in Jerusalem, let it be given to them every day without fail, so that they can offer sacrifices of pleasing aroma to the God of the heavens and pray for life of the king and his sons. I also issue a decree concerning any man who interferes with his directive. Let a beam be torn from his house and raised up. He will be impaled on it, and his house will be made into a garbage dump because of this offense. May the God who caused his name to dwell there overthrow any king or people who dares to harm or interfere with this house of God in Jerusalem. I, Darius, have issued the decree. Let it be carried out diligently. Then Tattenai, governor of the region west of the Euphrates River, Shethar-Bozenai, and their colleagues diligently carried out what King Darius had decreed. So the Jewish elders continued successfully with the building under the prophesying of Haggai the prophet and Zechariah son of Iddu. They finished the building according to the command of the God of Israel and the decrees of Cyrus, Darius, and King Artaxerxes of Persia. What if these men didn't continue to push through when things seemed hard? These men came and brought them a letter telling them that they needed to stop. But these men didn't listen to that letter just because the road got a little bit rough. A lot of times in our walk with God, the enemy will come and try to rough up our road a little bit, to try to discourage us, to get us to lose heart and to give up. But push through. The breakthrough could be nearer than you expect. And the Lord has bigger things planned for you. Just push through. Persevere. Continue. This house was completed on the 3rd day of the month of Adar in the 6th year of the reign of King Darius. Then the Israelites, including the priests, the Levites, the rest of the exiles, celebrated the dedication of the house of God with joy. For the dedication of God's house, they offered 100 bulls, 200 rams, and 400 lambs, as well as 12 male goats as a sin offering for all Israel, one for each Israelite tribe. They also appointed the priests by their divisions and the Levites by their groups to the service of God in Jerusalem, according to what is written in the book of Moses. The exiles observed the Passover on the 14th day of the 1st month. All of the priests and Levites were ceremonially clean because they had purified themselves. They killed the Passover lamb for themselves. Their priestly brothers and all the exiles, the Israelites who had returned from exile, ate it together with all who had separated themselves from the uncleanness of the Gentiles of the land in order to worship the Lord, the God of Israel. You see, they ate it all together with all who separated themselves from all the uncleanness of the world, of the Gentiles, basically the worldly ways. The Israelites who had returned from exile ate it together with all who had separated themselves from the uncleanness of the Gentiles of the land in order to worship the Lord, the God of Israel. They observed the festival of unleavened bread for 7 days with joy because the Lord had made them joyful, having changed the Assyrian king's attitude toward them, so that he supported them in the work on the house of the God of Israel. After these events, during the reign of King Artaxerxes of Persia, Ezra, Seraiah's son, Azariah's son, Hilkiah's son, Shallum's son, Zadok's son, Ahitub's son, Amariah's son, Azariah's son, Meraioth's son, Zeriah's son, Uzzi's son, Buki's son, Abishua's son, Phinehas's son, Eleazar's son, the chief priest Aaron's son, came up from Babylon. He was a scribe skilled in the law of Moses, which the Lord, the God of Israel, had given. The king had granted him everything he requested because the hand of the Lord, his God, was on him. Some of the Israelites, priests, Levites, singers, gatekeepers, and temple servants accompanied him to Jerusalem in the 7th year of King Artaxerxes. Ezra came to Jerusalem in the 5th month during the 7th year of the king. He began the journey from Babylon on the 1st day of the 1st month and arrived in Jerusalem on the 1st day of the 5th month, since the gracious hand of his God was on him. Now Ezra had determined in his heart to study the law of the Lord, obey it, and teach its statutes and ordinances in Israel. This is the text of the letter King Artaxerxes gave to Ezra the priest and scribe, an expert in matters of the Lord's commands and statutes for Israel. Artaxerxes, king of kings, to Ezra the priest, an expert in the law of the God of the heavens, greetings. I issue a decree that any of the Israelites in my kingdom, including their priests and Levites, who want to go to Jerusalem may go with you. You are sent by the king and his counselors to evaluate Judah and Jerusalem according to the law of your God, which is in your possession. You are also to bring the silver and gold the king and his counselors have willingly given to the God of Israel, whose dwelling is in Jerusalem, and all the silver and gold you received throughout the province of Babylon, together with the free will offerings given by the people and the priests to the house of their God in Jerusalem. Then you are to be diligent to buy with this money bulls, rams, and lambs, along with their grain and drink offerings, and offer them on the altar at the house of your God in Jerusalem. You may do whatever seems best to you and your brothers with the rest of the silver and gold, according to the will of your God. Deliver to the God of Jerusalem all the articles given to you for the service of the house of your God. You may use the royal treasury to pay for anything else needed for the house of your God. I, King Artaxerxes, issue a decree to all the treasurers in the region west of the Euphrates River, whatever Ezra the priest, an expert in the law of the God of the heavens, asks of you, must be provided in full, up to 7,500 pounds of silver, 500 bushels of wheat, 550 gallons of wine, 550 gallons of oil, and salt without limit. Whatever is commanded by the God of the heavens must be done diligently for the house of the God of the heavens, so that wrath will not fall on the realm of the king and his sons. Be advised that you do not have authority to impose tribute, duty, and land tax on any priests, Levites, singers, doorkeepers, temple servants, or other servants of this house of God. And you, Ezra, according to God's wisdom that you possess, Appoint magistrates and judges to judge all the people in the region west of the Euphrates, who know the laws of your God, and to teach anyone who does not know them. Anyone who does not keep the law of your God and the law of the king, let the appropriate judgment be executed against him, whether death, banishment, confiscation of property, or imprisonment. Blessed be the Lord, the God of our ancestors, who has put it into the king's mind to glorify the house of the Lord in Jerusalem, and who has shown favor to me before the king, his counselors, and all his powerful officers. So I took courage because I was strengthened by the hand of the Lord my God, and I gathered Israelite leaders to return with me. These are the family heads of the genealogical records of those who returned with me from Babylon during the reign of King Artaxerxes. Gershom from Phinehas' descendants, Daniel from Ithamar's descendants, Hattush from David's descendants, who was of Shechaniah's descendants, Zechariah from Parosh's descendants, and 150 men with him who were registered by genealogy. Eliehoenai, son of Zeriah, from Pahath Moab's descendants, and 200 men with him. Shechaniah, son of Jahaziel, from Zattu's descendants, and 300 men with him. Ebed, son of Jonathan, from Adin's descendants, and 50 men with him. Jeshiah, son of Athaliah, from Elam's descendants, and 70 men with him. Zebediah, son of Michael, from Shephatiah's descendants, and 80 men with him. Obadiah, son of Jehiel, and Joab's descendants, and 218 men with him. Shelomith, son of Josephiah, from Bani's descendants, and 160 men with him. Zechariah, son of Bebai, from Bebai's descendants, and 28 men with him. Johanan, son of Hakatan, from Azgad's descendants, and 110 men with him. These are the last ones from Adonikam's descendants, and their names are Eliphalet, Jeuel, and Shemaiah, and 60 men with them. Uthai and Zakur from Bigvai's descendants, and 70 men with them. I gathered them at the river that flows to Ahava, and we camped there for 3 days. I searched among the people and priests, but found no Levites there. Then I summoned the leaders, Eleazar, Ariel, Shemaiah, Elnathan, Jarib, Elnathan, Nathan, Zechariah, and Meshullam, as well as the teachers, Joyarib and Elnathan. I sent them to Iddu, the leader at Cassiphia, with a message for him and his brothers, the temple servants at Cassiphia, that they should bring us ministers for the house of our God. Since the gracious hand of our God was on us, they brought us Sherebiah, a man of insight from the descendants of Mali, a descendant of Levi, son of Israel, along with his sons and brothers, 18 men, plus Hashabiah, along with Jeshiah from the descendants of Merari and his brothers and their sons, 20 men. There were also 220 of the temple servants who had been appointed by David and the leaders of the work of the Levites, all there identified by name. I proclaimed a feast by the Ahava River, so that we might humble ourselves before our God and ask him for a safe journey for us, our dependents, and all our possessions. I did this because I was ashamed to ask the king for infantry and cavalry to protect us from enemies during the journey, since we had told him, the hand of our God is gracious to all who seek him. but his fierce anger is against all who abandon him. So we fasted and pleaded with our God about this, and he was receptive to our prayers. I selected 12 of the leading priests, along with Sherebiah, Hashabiah, and 10 of their brothers. I weighed out to them the silver, the gold, and the articles, the contribution for the house of our God, that the king, his counselors, his leaders, and all the Israelites who were present had offered. I weighed out to them 24 tons of silver articles weighing 7,500 pounds, 7,500 pounds of gold, 20 gold bowls worth 1,000 gold coins, and 2 articles of fine gleaming bronze as valuable as gold. Then I said to them, "You are holy to the Lord, and the articles are holy. The silver and gold are a free will offering to the Lord, God of your ancestors. Guard them carefully until you weigh them out in the chambers of the Lord's house before the leading priests, Levites, and heads of the Israelite families in Jerusalem." So the priests and Levites took charge of the silver, the gold, and the articles that had been weighed out to bring them to the house of our God in Jerusalem. We set out from the Ahava River on the 12th day of the first month to go to Jerusalem. We were strengthened by our God, and he kept us from the grasp of the enemy and from ambush along the way. So we arrived at Jerusalem and rested there for 3 days. On the 4th day, the silver, the gold, and the articles were weighed out in the house of our God into the care of the priest Meremoth, son of Uriah. Eleazar, son of Phinehas, was with him. The Levites, Jozabad, son of Jeshua, and Noadiah, son of Binnui, were also with them. Everything was verified by number and weighed, and the total weight was recorded at that time. The exiles who had returned from the captivity offered burnt offerings to the God of Israel, 12 bulls for all Israel, 96 rams and 27 lambs, along with 12 male goats as a sin offering. All this was a burnt offering for the Lord. They also delivered the king's edicts to the royal satraps and governors of the region west of the Euphrates, so that they could support the people and the house of God.